You know that feeling. You're trapped in a customer service loop, bounced between bots and agents, and you keep hearing the same thing. Sorry, the system won't allow it. Well, that's not a bug. That's a feature. Today, we're taking apart the unaccountability machine, this architecture of modern frustration, and we're going to give you the playbook to seize control.
And this right here, this just nails the core tension, doesn't it? We feel completely powerless, like we're up against a concrete wall. But the truth is, behind that wall, there's a lever. There's always a lever. The entire system, though, is engineered to make sure that lever never gets pulled. You are meant to feel helpless. You're meant to give up. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to put a name to this machine. Then we'll map its internal wiring, expose the flawed logic that keeps it running, and introduce a powerful new strategy to replace it. We'll explore the consequences of that shift, and we'll finish with a concrete playbook you can use come Monday.
Let's be absolutely clear on this. These systems that drive you mad, they are not accidents. They are not bugs. They're features. What we're looking at is a coherent, repeating design pattern that has been meticulously engineered.
Okay, so the core component of this machine is something we call an accountability sink. Think of it like a black hole for blame. Liability gets sliced, diced, and scattered across so many departments, vendors, and legal clauses that when something inevitably goes wrong, responsibility just vanishes. It gets sucked into the ether. No one is at fault because everyone is just a tiny bit at fault. So, the next time you're stuck in an infuriating automated loop, remember this: the system isn't failing you. It's actually succeeding at its real, unstated goal, managing and diffusing liability away from the people in charge.
So how is this architecture of blame actually built? What are the load-bearing walls that hold this whole unaccountable structure up? Well, it turns out there are 4 key pillars.
First, cybersecurity gets twisted into expensive compliance theater. It's all about ticking boxes, not actually stopping threats. Second, you hire consultants not for their brilliant insights, but as an external expert voice to absorb the blame if things go sideways. Third, vendor contracts are weaponized. You're not buying a solution, you're buying a scapegoat. And finally, insurance is the ultimate backstop. It takes a catastrophic operational failure and just turns it into a predictable line item on a spreadsheet.
And this highlights the crucial paradigm shift. The game being played is not about security, it's about liability. The goal isn't to prevent the disaster, but to make damn sure that when the disaster happens, the fault lies anywhere but here.
And this creates a totally perverse incentive for all of us. If following the rules leads to a dead end, then the only rational response is to become irrational. You have to swear at the bot to get a human. You have to behave unreasonably to trigger an escalation. The system literally forces you to become the difficult customer just to get a simple problem solved.
Now, if these systems are so obviously broken and counterproductive, why on earth do we keep building them? Well, it's because they're born from a very powerful, very comforting lie. And this lie, this is the villain of our story, the seductive belief in top-down control.
The villain is this deep-seated idea that with enough rules, enough checklists, and enough oversight, we can somehow tame complexity. It's this fantasy that a rigid command and control structure can manage a dynamic, unpredictable world. It feels safe to executives and regulators, but it is fundamentally, deeply broken.
And this belief gives birth to the same old playbook, every single time. When something goes wrong, what's the response? More audits, stricter checklists, tighter compliance. These are tools designed to create the illusion of control, even when they're actually getting in the way of real problem solving.
And the results? Well, they speak for themselves. This quote from someone working in finance cybersecurity just says it all. Look, checklists are great for pilots and surgeons, but when you misapply them to complex, dynamic problems, they just become instruments of institutional stupidity.
And here is the critical inflection point. This old playbook, which is already failing us, is about to be completely obliterated. The rise of decentralized agentic AI, systems that think and act on their own, will simply snap these brittle, top-down frameworks in half. The old map is useless in this new territory.
Okay, so the failure of that old model forces us to find a new one. We need a strategy that's built not for control, but for complexity, for coexistence. This is the hero of our story. It's called the hybrid mandate. And this hero strategy isn't just some nice idea. It's grounded in hard data. A landmark study from Stanford and Carnegie Mellon found that hybrid teams, that's humans working with AI, outperformed fully autonomous AI agents by a staggering 68.7%. That is not a small margin. That is a massive signal that the future isn't human versus machine, it's human entangled with machine. So that insight gives us the HYBRID protocol, which is a really practical, actionable framework. You keep a human in charge, you yield the programmable steps to the AI, you set clear boundaries on what it can and can't do, you review all of its outputs with clear provenance so you can trace how a decision was made, you instrument and log everything, and finally you disclose AI usage to maintain trust. This isn't just a good idea anymore, this is rapidly becoming the standard of care.
What this represents is a fundamental philosophical shift. We have to stop trying to impose control from the top down. The new game is to embed human judgment at the protocol level. You have to design systems that expect and require human collaboration, not systems that try to engineer the human out of the loop.
Now, adopting this new mandate doesn't just fix old problems. It creates an entirely new landscape of opportunity. A whole new social circuit begins to form, creating roles and responsibilities that were frankly unimaginable just a few years ago.
First, we're seeing the rise of the AI risk mitigation officer. Now, this isn't your old school compliance manager. This is a true hybrid professional, part engineer, part legal scholar, whose job is to navigate that complex territory where code meets consequence. They are the guardians of trust in these incredibly high-stakes systems.
Then you have the emotion wrangler. I mean, think about that title. As AI gets scarily good at mimicking human emotion, we're going to need experts who can safeguard its emotional realism. They're like the system's conscience, making sure it isn't weaponized to manipulate or coerce people through fake empathy.
And this one might be the most fascinating, the moral exit facilitator. This person's job is to help people ethically opt out of systems that feel dehumanizing. They champion human autonomy, designing pathways for people to detach from systems that make them feel trapped or surveilled without being unfairly punished for it.
Okay, so we've covered the theory, we've identified the villain, and we've met the hero. Let's make this concrete. What does this all mean for you on Monday morning? Here is the playbook for seizing control.
Stop wasting money on compliant theater and those useless checklists. Start designing social circuit breakers. That means human touchpoints that are empowered to halt cascading failures. Measure the performance of your hybrid human-AI teams, not just the raw speed of the algorithm. Hire for judgment and ethical oversight, not just for technical skills. Demand protocol-level transparency from your vendors. And maybe most important of all, build systems that are designed from the ground up to advocate for the user, not just deflect liability.
So let's end right back where we began, with that feeling of being trapped by a faceless, indifferent system. We've all been told that this is just an unavoidable feature of the modern world. But it's not. It's a choice. And that leaves us with one last transformative question. What would it look like if the systems we dealt with every day weren't designed as accountability sinks, but were designed, from the start, as advocates working on our behalf?